Dear Scott Moe, this is a Dear Scott Moe message as he posts Keystone XL in Trump's post, as though this is monumental for the continent of North America and this unity of Canada and USA. Except for apparently Scott Moe missed the White House press release, the France 24 News press release all over France, the European Union today, and of course the United States of America, where Donald J. Trump answers a particular question about Canada and Mexico, and the French ask it, are you going to be lifting the tariffs from Canada and Mexico? Did they do enough? And he says clearly, no. 30 days expire, Canada and Mexico are getting the tariffs. They didn't do enough. And particularly, he says, reciprocal tariffs. Folks, you don't know what that means. Scott Moe, sadly, as it shows, doesn't know what that means. I'm going to break it down for you, Republican style. Absolutely. You see, there's a Commerce Act in the United States, the 50 states of the Union. We'll see if I get hit. Got to stay on the move. Contrary to everything you're told, no state taxes anywhere near our supposed lowest state taxed Alberta. And there's all the taxes that you, the Canadian people, pay. Most of you have no clue. Well, the Republicans do. You see, those 50 states, when they trade with you, they don't roll out those taxes upon you, Canada, in your trade. Canada does. Now, you all know about carbon tax. You know about several carbon pricing. That's on top of manufacturers. You know about a whole lot that USA doesn't do. There's excise, there's fuel taxes. These are substantially more than anything found in the United States, carried out by provinces, whereas US carries them out at the federal level, and the states don't do that. They're trading with Canada. Donald J. Trump's going, you know what? I'm starting to add up all those extra taxes, which are tariffs. It's Canadian tariffs upon our American products by Canada, whether effectually done by the federal government or your provincial government. We're not going to play that game anymore. We're not going to play that game anymore. He's going to do reciprocity, meaning simple tariff regime. Whatever Canada and its provinces roll out, Donald Trump's going to match at the federal level. When you average out in energy with these provinces, I've already looked at it, it comes out to 13%. If you go PST averages, you know, BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, fuel taxes, excise taxes, all placed upon the United States that they do not place on any Canadians and any of your products, none whatsoever. Is Trump going to add all those up and roll that out on the third? Will it just be 5%? Or is it going to be that average 13.5%? I don't know. We're going to see. Then there's more on the 12th, and there's much more in early April 8th, destroying a lot of Canadian industries, impacting a lot of the Western production and industries, at least limiting you on building. Now, we knew he was going to roll out the XL. He always wanted to. More than XL, if you didn't know, he wants a train all the way to Alaska, too. He wants that. Right through Alberta, all through those northern communities, help First Peoples out, connect the dots here, all the way to Alaska. That is settled, is all set up, but yet Canada doesn't do any of that. Trump knows, the Republicans know better than any other party. He's presented Turtle Island. These premiers are grasping at straws in an idea of unity where they're the filthy middlemen, sucking USA dry, sucking Canadians dry too. And they get away with it against Canadians, but Donald J. Trump's saying, not against us. not against us. Now, the only way what he said works out, if anyone doesn't know, TC Energy and its subsidiary, who've boasted several times, never, ever will they ever come back to the table. They lost $2.5 billion of investor money. Alberta lost $6 billion of taxpayers' money over that fiasco. Do you think investors, massive amount of Americans who are now gone, will ever come back to that table with Canada in its constitutional monarchy, with all its federal roadblocks available in environmental, the current state with the Indian Act that does not exist in the United States? They don't call people savages there. They haven't pursued that or had that since 1920. It is foreign to America, but they know now. Lots of the American companies said, we're not playing this. Even Shell, who was the first, said, we're not doing Canada or this shit system anymore. It's not worth it. It's evil, it's ugly, it's a stain on our brand. And these politicians are clinging to the idea that they're going to remain the middlemen. In Canada, the 51st state, the Commerce Act is imposed, which means there are no more provinces. They're gone. They're turned into districts. There's only one federal system with these sub-districts, and a quarter of the current federal population of politicians, which means all provincial are absolutely gone. A huge bloat, saving all Canadians now turned into Americans more than 60%. That is the only way Americans will return to Canada to ever truly invest. Unity? I don't think so. Which brings me to his other message, published clearly, supported by France, multiple times said yesterday, and even backed up by Donald J. Trump in just another post that all the Canadian politicians are ignoring. Monumental, super economic proposals for USA and Russia in this deal where they're going to divide out Ukraine, where Ukraine owes USA a lot of money, and of course 30% of Ukraine is occupied by Russia. Key places with what? Potash and many other massive resources that Canada has and sells to USA. This isn't oil, folks. Oil is sold globally on a USD system. What do you think the OPEC block is for? Have you ever heard of a block for uranium or potash or fertilizer? And I can go on and on and on. There aren't any. Outside of that, Russia controls all of these industries if USA wants to and can get a deal. And on cheap ruble right now, 87 to $1 US. What's USA looking at? We can get all these things at tremendously low price comparatively to Canada, and Russia's itchy for it after this war. What do you think this deal's going to mean for Canada, especially in a current trade war? And when tariffs are rolled out and all of these major products in Canada become a lot more expensive in the United States, it's Russia trade agreement where these things are considerably less. What is going to happen, everybody? What's going to happen? Not hard to figure out. Said out of the president's mouth, backed up by the White House press release, all USA press, all French press. Asked, stated in the press release, and then backed up in Donald Trump's social media. Absolute. He gives you a carrot and make fun of you and your silly premier. Scott Moe, I have actually some respect for what he did in nuclear, what he was trying to do at the COP, but this is a belly flop. And if Scott Moe doesn't see it, somebody who's in that at least explain that to him, because you're setting a lot of Saskatchewanians up for an epic failure. A lot of Albertans are already set up for epic failure through Danielle Smith, who's been nothing but a complete bullshitter all the way through. Scott Moe, don't fall into this. Don't fall into the unity. And you guys are all going to be the middlemen of the United States. It makes zero economic sense. It's not in the Trump rollout anywhere that includes any of you. You're bloated. You're excess. Excise tax excess. Plus your massive bloat of political parties, political legislatures at the provincial level. USA runs tremendously thinner than you do at every state level. They don't run anything comparable to Canada. Canada is a giant, explosive political regime encompassing upwards of 20% of the working population in this first class of appointments and sworn. That doesn't exist in the United States, who's got almost 10 times their population, at least 9 point some legal Americans versus legal Canadians. Most of our current immigration system would be transferred into illegal in the American system. Donald J. Trump and the GOP have already rolled right through this. They're prepared for it. They know it's things that I'd worried about many months ago. And clearly, as time progressed, they're on board with all of this. They understand it very well. They even taught me a sizable amount. And I am trying like heck to teach so many Canadians before these economic destructions are permanent and there's nowhere to go. And these politicians fighting to cling to their power, lying, humiliated themselves, think that somehow they're part of something. He doesn't say Governor Trudeau for nothing. He doesn't say that. He even said, if the other guy even wins. And we're going to see what the polls are this Sunday. But I think it's safe to say we're going to see the Liberals take another monumental jump in the polls again, like they have been week after week for 3 alarming weeks in a row. And I think after Team Canada and Trudeau's rollout, I think we see that and this carny transition, which what it looks like. I think we really, I'm scared we need to have our party done at that 100%, 338 by the end of February. I mean, we're going to keep pushing it no matter what. We're doing really well. It's really well. I don't want to go in with all the appointments not there, but I will if we can do a 338, and it looks like we have that right now today, everybody. We could have a 51st state 338 across Canada. Some people may have to take outside their EDA areas, but if we had to, we could. Still need the accountant. I've got 2 website developers I'm going to deal with this weekend. But yeah, we've had just so much massive support, people answering those questions. I'm pleased to tell everybody I've processed 700 people, record time, got to finish a database, massive man hours. I guess it's good I'm on 8-hour shifts at work. It gives me that extra 6 hours I can't afford a day. It's still a heavy schedule, not healthy, but I can do it until I can have vetted volunteers, legally vetted and legally sworn by a liability. And we need that because I've seen the error of that before, and we're not repeating those instances. We can't run into these pitfalls this time around. So I'm ready, and we're going to get that. It's just going to take some time. And I know we're under a crunch here because there's a process for registering the party, and we still need the accountant. That's an absolute. If anyone knows an accountant, this can't be hired. So don't bother messaging me saying, hey, I know this accounting firm you could hire. That's not how it works. It has to be somebody on our party board as the chief financial officer who's a chartered accountant, who believes in what we're doing, wants to see the 51st state and see that end, because they have to be loyal to our party. It's not somebody you can pay for. You can't pay your way into this position. It has to be somebody who wants to see this done in Canada. You know, and that's what we need. Somebody's got to come forward, and we got to really rattle doors, because this one's tough. This one's tough. But that's my video, everybody. Get it out there. Share. Learn these truths. These are core truths that premiers, either A, are incompetently ignoring, or B, they're going with populism to trick all of you to protect their own skins, their own crown, at your absolute detriment and your poverty coming. Because when USA rolls these out, let's say before the G7 that's supposed to be in Alberta, which I think will be, I think we're going to see a Russia-Ukraine-USA deal stamped by France clearly with military guarantees for France, meaning USA, on their portion that Ukraine owes, that USA is going to develop to help Ukraine build its economy. Russia's going to get all of that 30% they fought and they've held. That's probably what's going to happen, which means USA to cement that, because Russia will say, we already got our 30%. What more could you offer us? An end of sanctions and a trade deal to help deliver us with all these other countries who wish to decolonize. You know, remember when we historically did this 80 times together? We're ready to do that, and we're already rebuilding these teams. And I'm Donald J. Trump. I'm being honest, Vladimir Putin. Build your international team. We'll build ours. We'll do this together. Let's make a deal. Let's make an economic deal. And let's start the decolonizing again. And if anyone hasn't been paying attention, Canada, Mexico, Greenland, Panama, decolonization, North America. Trump has not held back any punches. He's never lied about that. And we're going into trade wars. And we're going to continue to ramp up as USA skates away. And I think Donald J. Trump, with his support right now, he's talking about he thinks he can win midterms. He's already seen that, whoa, this party thing doesn't look good in Canada. We have to deliver, because he's saying, well, I think I can win midterms if you could just hold out a little longer, Canadians. Well, we need to deliver that 100%, everybody. We've got to make it in this election. We've got to ring the bell across Canada. We've all got to be on that stage. That means the 338, all 338 of you who wish to run, going to your debates, debating 51st state, and we will get into that. But it's monumental, because if Carney calls an election April 15th, that means we would have had to apply. We need 6 weeks. There's 30-day campaign period, and then it's an election. We got to be in that, a 30-day window. If it takes 6 weeks to process the party with Elections Canada, that means by the end of February, very latest, middle of March. And that happened to us with Alberta independence. We actually lost the first week. And then there was also financial donations. That froze us out for 2 weeks before any of that could move, meaning we lost 2 weeks of campaign period, all broke with nothing. We still made a comeback, but it wasn't enough. We don't want that this time around. And it's a much more stricter, faster, and larger scale, but we're trying. And I am very proud to say we're at 33%. Absolutely. We need the 100%. We need that. We need that as quick as possible, and we need the accountant. This weekend, I've got to get these 2 web developers, whichever one, or hopefully they'll work on it together. We'll get this done for us, because it's just too much for me. And we'll see how it's going with all the people applying through the Facebook and getting the party memberships. It's incredible. It's awesome. I can't believe it. It's just like, wow. Quickly, high pace. I love it. But it takes a lot of time and energy. Time and energy we're closed on. So that's my video. Share, share, share. It's awesome. Trump's kind of looking at it like, are you going to be there? They're looking at that, and they're talking about, well, maybe we're going to win a majority again at the midterms, so don't pressure yourself or give up. They don't want us to give up. That's a fact. But I want to deliver the 100%. I want us there. We've got to, because it isn't going to be Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, Carney, any of the politicians. That's the last thing they're ever going to do, no matter what they say. I don't want to hear about provincial politicians, because they're sworn against it. They'll never do it because it means their jobs. Think about it. They make millions and millions of dollars, and they can't be arrested or held accountable. Do you think any of them ever wants that to end or get neutered out of the system? And then all the federal politicians, Governor Trudeau, when Trump says that, everybody, American laws, sure, in the transition, if Trudeau chose that, he can do that. But the second that we institute the Enabling Act, meaning we come forward with our state constitution under American imposed laws accepted by Congress, Trudeau, you're not a dual citizen. In fact, none of your cabinet is, none of the Conservatives, none of the NDP, most of the Canadian politicians aren't at a 99 percentile. And our imposed laws, they're all gone. And you can forget about the provincial, they won't exist. There'll be a whole new imposed system of elections at the local level that have never existed ever in Canadian history, will now be imposed. You'll be electing your local sheriff, who, yes, there'll be police, but they run it. And they have authority. Your executive authority, you voted them from your community. This will go for magistrates too at the community level. There's so much the Canadians have no idea about statehood. Powerful executive powers placed upon the people when you're an American that don't exist in Canada. Why? Because you're a subject of nothing. Anyhow, I don't want to continue the video too far off track, but these are things people need to know that are critical. Share, get it out there. Don't be bamboozled by politicians leading you in rabbit holes, because that is not the message Trump has been very clear about on the world stage. Same day, same releases. This is a 51st state Canada-wide message to those companies. Get on board with 51st state. Just like the OPEDs of me and Alberta independence, it's them going 51st state Canada. There's your guarantee. Donald J. Trump. Not a political guarantee to any of your provincial politicians. No way, shape, or form. No Canada unity with United States, or this, we're going to work together as some kind of European Union. They don't want your filthy, fat politicians and their money grubbing and bleeding out of America, which happens to be a bleed out of all of you. America sees and says, you bleed us, you bleed them. Let's see the people vote for non-bleeders, small government, and still delivering the same amount of services. God bless everybody. Take care. Share. Get it out there. Bye now.